have controls. Brian has controls. Okay, you have control.
Okay, yeah, I see it. It says it's being recorded down below.
Okay.
All right, you want to get started, Sherry?
Okay, we can, do you want to do yours first, Brian, and then we can jump into, because really what I'm going to do is just the registration paperwork, give them their books, make sure they get on the course page.
Okay.
Do you want me to do that, any of that first before you get into it?
Well, hold on just a second here. All right, I'm going to try to show the screen here. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yep. We can.
Okay. So just a few things about the Advanced EMT course. Did you lose it?
No, it's still there.
Okay. I can see you guys, but I don't see mine anymore. So.
You're still here for us. So.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so welcome to the Advanced EMT course. As Jamie knows and Cherry knows, my name is Brian Monahan. I'll be your instructor for the next, it's going to seem like about 10 years, but I think it's only about 18 weeks or so. We're going to cover a lot of material in a very short amount of time in this course. So it's imperative that people read and stay up to date on everything they have for their assignments, their readings, so on and so forth. So the best ways to contact me, I think we'll start with that, is to email me directly. And people can email through the course page if they want, but it sometimes doesn't get to me quite as quickly as if you would email me directly at my Hotmail account. So the Hotmail account will show up on my phone, and I'll get to it fairly quickly. I've also posted on here my phone number. This is my personal cell. You can text me, you can call me, and I'll do what I can to get back with you. Now, I do understand that I do work a full-time job elsewhere, so I may not get to your message immediately, but I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Please be cautious what hours that you call or text. Try to be reasonable with that. There's a reason I got off of working 24-hour shifts is because I don't believe in, that whole time period from about 11 p.m. to about 7 a.m. I just don't think it should exist. So if you wake the bear, it may not be pretty. So what should you expect every week? You should expect to do a considerable amount of reading. And I think I lost it again there. I don't know why it keeps doing that. There we go. A considerable amount of reading, and we've structured the schedule, and I don't know, Sherry, did you leave him a copy of the schedule there?
I don't, but I can sure print them one off quick, and we'll have it on their course page. So.
It's on their course page. I just posted it on there. So there is a significant amount of reading. Usually somewhere about 50 to 100 pages of reading each week. It is imperative that the reading is done. We don't cover everything. Particularly, we don't spend a lot of time on the basics. And as we found out from the last Advanced EMT class that we did, the thing that seems to be tripping people up on their registry is their basics. This course is designed to add to what you should already know, not be a complete repeat. Otherwise, we would have a course that lasted a year or year and a half long because we would repeat all the EMT stuff. So reading is going to help you recap a lot of the basics. When we do the National Registry at the advanced levels, the #1 station that a paramedic or advanced EMT fails is the random basic skill, which is something like splinting or longboarding or KED or something silly like that. But advanced providers stop and they think, oh, well, I know that. I don't really need to study that. And then they just continue to study their advanced stuff, and they lose it. So I think that goes to say a lot that we've really got to look at the books on a regular basis. And if you're not comfortable with some of that basic knowledge, it may be important that we go and pull out our EMT book or another EMT resource and kind of brush up there as well. The best EMT or the best paramedics and advanced EMTs are great EMTs first. You know, the longer I've been around EMS, which is knocking on a quarter of a century now, the more I've realized that less is more when it comes to a lot of patient care. There's a lot of cool things that I can do. I can cut a hole in your throat, and I can put a tube down your throat, and I can put needles in your chest and all that. But just because I can do it doesn't mean I should do it. So really concentrating on the good basics is really what's going to get your patient their best outcome. So with that being said, don't forget the basics and add your advanced stuff to it. So take a lot of notes. You can write in your textbooks. You can write them out separate. If people choose to do electronic textbooks, you certainly can do that. I find it a little more difficult to make readily noticeable notes when I do electronic textbook, but it can be done. Notes are going to help you go back to the points in the text that you maybe weren't terribly clear on. So after you've completed the reading, you should go then and watch the lecture videos. I'm working on getting those lecture videos up in there for this week. And honestly, this week we have one chapter to cover and a very small appendix section. It's Appendix 3 and Chapter 12. So they don't sound like a lot. However, the amount of content that you have in Chapter 12 alone is pretty impressive. There's a lot of new stuff that you're going to be introduced to. So after you've done your reading, then go back and watch the lecture video, and that lecture video will help reinforce what you read and took notes on. There's no limit on the amount of times you can watch a lecture. You can watch it 50 or 100 times if you've got the time and the resources to do that. There's no specific protocol in that says you have to watch it straight through in one shot. You can back it up, you can go forward, whatever you want to do there. They are in a Windows Media format, so most computers, iPads, and whatnot should play the videos without much difficulty. If you run into problems, make sure and let Cherry or myself know. On a regular day-to-day basis, as far as some of that technical stuff, it's probably easiest to contact Cherry simply for the fact that she has a direct line into the IT people, and they can help you usually a little quicker than I can. Complete any assignments, activities, discussions that are located in the course folder for that week. There won't be a lot of discussions. I'm really going to try to steer us away from doing a lot of threaded discussion as much as possible. I've never been a big fan of them, so I'm going to try to find us alternatives. But there will be at least some sort of an activity for everybody to do each week. We will have a message board open, and it's really up in the very top of the course page, where if you have just general questions or comments, you can post those and kind of poll your classmates as well. And then probably the last thing that most people will do for the week will be complete their quiz or exam. You should expect there to be at least a quiz or an exam each week. Probably when we have hands-on skill days, there even might be a small quiz that kind of covers some of the drugs and maybe the medication or the IV fluids that we touch on in class, just to see that everybody's getting those down. Any questions over that so far?
Nope. I think we're good.
All right. I might have forgotten to mention this, but you must read the assignments. I cannot emphasize this enough. So many people think, why do I even have the textbook? I'm not going to read it anyway. And with the amount of content in this course, and you having to be self-driven learners as opposed to teacher-centered learning, your time spent in the textbook making notes and whatnot is really what's going to make it settle in. So typically the next week's materials will open up on Mondays. The old material doesn't go away unless it's something like a quiz or a test, and then it will lock back down after you've taken it or on Monday or what have you. I recommend people stay in touch by logging in regularly. Don't try to log in Sunday night at 5 o'clock for the first time that week and expect to get it all done, because you're really going to need to be on top of it and making sure that you're doing any discussions. They may require you to get back in and do a reply. Skills days. I think this is the part of these courses that most people really like, is getting in and sitting down and playing with the toys. It's where we're going to practice what we've learned in class. A lot of it we learn kind of the map. We look at the map. We look at the step-by-step approach to it. And then when we actually get to skills days is when we get to sit down and actually put it to practice. So we're not going to let anybody start their clinical field until they've proven their competence with their IV and their medication administration skills. So everybody needs to make sure and be at the first skills day that we have on that, scheduled right now for December 7th. And that'll be at whatever campus that you're enrolled through. So if you're going through Iowa Western, of course, that'll be in Council Bluffs. And then the other one's in Fort Dodge, right, Jerry?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. All right, quizzes and exams are not open note, open book, ask your partner, phone a friend, or any other type of assistance. Unless it explicitly tells you to use a resource, you're not supposed to use a resource. Last time we had a class, some people learned very quickly that there's a lot more to this website than what the student sees, because we can pull up all kinds of data about who was where doing what, how long it took, who was logged in from the same address, so on and so forth. And some people got caught cheating. So it behooves you to study, take the test on your own, see what you know and what you don't know, and then learn from that. You're really not in competition with anybody but yourself, and just because you get an A in the class doesn't mean you got the most out of the class. If you cheat, you're hurting yourself, your profession, your partner's patients, and your chance of passing the national registry. You have to be able to commit those things to memory. No, you're not going to get 100% on every test. That's just not realistic. So a few frequently asked questions, then I kind of open it up a little bit here. People ask, is this class going to be hard? Jamie, what is the answer to that?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a difficult test, or a difficult course. Will you have to study? Yes, everybody has to study. You may need to devote 20 or more hours a week to reading, taking the notes, completing your activities, quizzes, exams, watching lectures, And that's if we don't have a skills day that week. If we have a skills day, we're going to add another 8 hours on top of that. And obviously for you, spending some time in the lab. Will we be poking each other with needles? Yes. Probably quite often the first couple of skills days. After you learn on the mannequin and you practice your technique on the mannequin, we cut you loose and we have you sticking needles in each other. There are sterile needles, there's sterile saline and sterile syringes and whatnot. So it's nothing to be concerned with, but you are going to get stuck. So that's the best way to learn it is to do it. So we try a couple on the mannequin and then we move right on to the real people. We want you to have a feel for it and know what it's like before you go out and do this on patients. Do you have to do all the internship time? Yes. It's not optional. You got to complete the minimum competencies to complete the course. We don't send you out to internship just for fun. There's a purpose behind it, and it's to prove that you're competent. So when do we get to start doing cool stuff? This very first week is when we start learning about the cool stuff. Now, the whole course is cool, but I think why a lot of people are taking the course is they want to do these extra skills, and that's actually what we're going to cover this first week. And people ask, do I really need to read the book? I think there may be a theme here. Yes, you really do have to read the book. All right, so we'll get rid of that. And there we go. All right. Too many windows and stuff here. There we go. Okay, so questions that you guys have right off the bat here?
I can't think of anything. I mean, is it going to be pretty much, based the same as what I had, when I started it before, as far as the lectures and, that sort of thing, other than it's just online? I mean, are you going to have any times where we can actually get on like this and have a, I don't know, like a face-to-face, maybe with the class, or, have a certain time when you know that you are available then to answer questions? Or
I'm not against that. We're just going to have to maybe be creative in our scheduling.
Sure.
What we are looking at is a former student / instructor of mine from my days being the chair there, who actually instructed the first hybrid class we did, is probably going to be assisting with the course as well. And he's brought up the thought of doing some virtual office hours in which you could kind of do some go-to-meeting things, or at least have live interactive chat room where you could ask questions. So we're going to look at that, maybe see if we can come up with some regular schedules that either James or myself or Cherry can be online, for an hour or two. That way if people say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, can you help me out with it?
Right.
So that's really what we're shooting for with that. Obviously, being the self-driven learner, you have to do the reading and the notes and the studying and whatnot. Hopefully the activities will help to reinforce these things, but it does put a lot of pressure on the learner. So, Jamie, didn't you take your EMT class this way?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I think most people, and you can tell us whether you agree or not, most people feel if they take a hybrid course, they actually have to work harder than if they would have taken a face-to-face course.
I agree.
So, and in reality, I think we turn out better students, those that make it all the way to the end, that didn't stop and think, oh, well, I'm going to take it online because that'll be easy.
Right.
I really, truly think that those people do much better in the long run.
Well, and I've taken a few other online courses, and I think it's the same way with no matter what kind of online course you take. I mean, it's harder than what you would do face-to-face. The reason I asked about the virtual type hours is, that's the only thing I think, looking back on the EMT class that I took hybrid, is that I feel like that sometimes maybe there wasn't enough, easy enough communication, you know, to be able to go over things that I didn't know. And, you know, so when somebody says, would you recommend taking the EMT class hybrid? I have a hard time. I hesitate to say, you know, yeah, go, you know, take it. I mean, I don't tell them no, but I just tell them that I had some, you know, issues, and it could have been I didn't study enough. I mean, who knows? You know, I just know that there was, you know, times when I felt like I didn't quite get it all, you know. So
I can see that and appreciate that. I think some people don't realize that not everybody can learn good in this environment.
right.
It's either something you really excel at or you don't. Some people learn over time, and I think this time around we've got a little bit more experience under our belts, and hopefully we'll have a little more interaction that way.
Well, and I think the
EMT
hybrid class that I took was the first hybrid class that
we've learned a lot since then.
Yeah, and that's why you know, when you had said that it was going to be hybrid, I'm like, okay, well, you know, and I think it might be easier too, already being an EMT and then taking the advanced class hybrid rather than trying to learn the whole thing, you know, on my own.
Sure.
I'm excited.
Good, good. Well, the way that we've structured things is I'm trying a little experiment, and what we're going to do this time around is start with Chapter 12, which is all the skills, as well as Appendix 3. But that's all the skills. We're going to try to knock out all the skills these first really 2 weeks. The second week we're recovering airway management, which really shouldn't be new to anybody. So these first couple weeks knocking out the skills, which a lot of people equate, oh, well, that's the only difference between an EMT and an AEMT is there's a couple of skills. That's not really true. It's one of the more, I guess, probably one of the selling points when you tell people, hey, we're going to hand you a needle and let you stick people with it. But it's not about the skills. It's about the knowledge and the expanded thinking, critical thinking abilities that an advanced EMT gets. So we'll knock out the skills first, so those aren't as much of an emphasis. We can get you guys into internship quicker. That was one of the things from the last class that it took people a while to get their internship done because we were a few weeks into the course before we got onto the skills. So this, I think, is going to let people get into the clinical setting a little quicker. With our schedule having us starting the skills lab really in the end of week 3, that should have given everybody enough time to get through weeks 1 and 2, studying those materials, reviewing how to start IVs and drop medications and so on and so forth. And then we'll start back in at Chapter 1 during week 3 and kind of start covering that base knowledge stuff. But we'll have that skills lab on December 7th, and then hopefully everybody will be ready to go to start to do some internships as soon as we're done with those. We do have a winter break scheduled where we took basically a week off between Christmas and New Year's almost, and I hope people will take advantage of that time where they're not going to have a lot of book work to do to maybe get out and do a couple of ER shifts. So that's one of the things that we're trying a little different here. Other than that, we'll have the online lectures. If you guys aren't familiar with those, some hybrid courses simply post a PowerPoint. You can flip through the PowerPoint, you read the book, and that's it. The way ours work is I record a video. I actually use this same program we're using right now. I hope it doesn't sound quite as bad, but I think I'm getting feedback through. We record the PowerPoints as we move along. My voice is there, and you can obviously read the PowerPoints, but you can also listen to what I have to say to kind of supplement that additional information. It's just like I would be giving a normal lecture in class. So, hey, that's much better. I don't hear myself again. Did you turn me off, Cherry?
No, I turned us off.
Ah, gotcha. All
I
right.
think that's where we're getting the feedback.
So, all right. I'm going to try to pull up the page here. So let me see what I can do. I'd really like to stop seeing myself here.
I think, Brian, too, one thing we probably should talk about is the hours of internship. 'Cause I know on the schedule we've identified 86 hours, I think, that are required. But we're probably looking more in the 150-hour range, maybe. It's very dependent on the facility that you go to. But to get those amount of IV sticks and patient assessments, it may take you longer than that 86 hours.
Okay, so you're requiring 86, but if we don't get them in that 86, then you have to keep. You have to keep going.
Correct.
But you're not mandating 150 hours. You're.
If you can get it in 86, then.
Okay. But you got to be choosy on your, and I, from doing that, starting out the last time, there's a huge difference in where you pick to do your clinicals.
Yeah, if you're going to do your clinicals in basically a rural area, it's going to take you a lot longer. Yeah. Okay, back to you, sir.
Can you guys see the course page right now?
Yes.
Okay. So when you log in, I guess I'll log out of here. Let's get out of that. Log out. Cherry will help you guys get logged in here. Jamie, I know you've done this before. From when we did this face-to-face, we put some of the materials on there. But so we'll put our oh, apparently I can't spell today. So you log into the site, and it's just rocklocal.iwcc.edu. All right, and it'll bring you to your home page, and you won't have as much stuff on here. So we'll get rid of that. And I'm going to switch my role to a student. So this is what it'll look like for you guys. So right now there's a few documents right in here. This stuff always really stays up there. Occasionally some new stuff will come up. Our course syllabus is found here. Course schedule is here. When I was looking at the schedule right here, if you want to save it, you mouse over it kind of, and then you can go down here. You can print, save, zoom, make it bigger, I guess, fit the page, so on and so forth. Or if you want to just have it electronically, that's fine too. Do whichever way you want to do that. So, back here, we've got more things like our syllabus. I think Cherry will probably talk syllabus with you a little bit, but a syllabus is a learning contract. This is what's expected of you guys and kind of what's expected of us. It talks about some of the course practices and grading. Here's our grading scale. For all intents and purposes, a 78 is the minimum passing score. You can get a D, but a D technically gets you a passing score for a college course. It does not meet the minimum standard for our program graduation. So a program graduate has to have a minimum of a 78% total when we're done. So although the D is technically listed, you can basically consider it failing. So here's what our makeup is. So if you like percentages, we have that. If you like points, we have that. But here's how our grades are made up. There will be 7 section exams. Oh shoot! I see a misprint here. I'll update it. There says 6 major section exams for 700 points. It's 7 section exams for 700 points. So they're 100 points each. Final exam for 200. Quizzes are added up and averaged out for 300. Participation points. How much are you participating in the online classroom? as well as, and it's going to be more so when we're doing labs, how much are you participating there. 100 points. Practical labs are 200 points, and it's basically based off of your performance in labs. Just because you fail a practice exam or something in lab doesn't mean you fail to get the points. It just means that we use it for a learning experience there. And then internship is also worth 200 points. The term internship, that is the term that I have used really since I started over at Iowa Western to mean clinical and field rolled into one. You'll usually start with clinical. We'll send you to some places like respiratory therapy, the emergency room, lab. That's to kind of start to hone those skills. After we teach you how to start an IV or give a breathing treatment, you'll go and you'll do those things there where you're kind of really just doing them. And then as you progress through class and you're able to kind of put 2 and 2 together, you start to do a little bit more ER time where you're probably a little more autonomous, and then you start to get into the field time where hopefully you're able to put these bits and pieces together into a nice big package. So that kind of goes through there. Here's a participation rubric. You kind of want to know, well, what does it take to get the most points out of participation? It kind of shows you right here. As well as a few other things like sleeping in class is, kind of bad. So you can look through those. Notice of class cancellation, and I'm going to say simply for the fact that I think Sherry's going to show this tomorrow, or for the Fort Dodge people. For Iowa Western students, there is a Reaver Alert system that you can get a text message that tells you when the campus closes for weather. Otherwise, you can text me, and you all have my number for there. This is really mainly for when we do skills days, because we're not going to close the online classroom because it's snowing out, because hopefully you're at home sitting around keeping warm. If you choose to sit around in your boxers eating Cheetos at 3 o'clock in the morning taking class, that's up to you. Just make sure to turn your webcam off. And hybrid students from other institutions, contact your local institution regarding any closure notifications. So I would assume that Fort Dodge students will have some sort of a similar system that we do, but maybe there's a good TV channel or something that they can pay attention to as well. A few of the particular college policy items here. Honor Code talks about academic honesty, diversity statement, Americans with Disabilities Act. There are some impairments that we're able to grant some assistance with. The National Registry is fairly limited on what they allow as far as accommodations, so we, in many cases, try to defer to them. But if you suspect that you have something that may require an accommodation, I would first put you in touch with Sherry, and she can get you headed in the right direction. Or if you're at the Fort Dodge campus, then obviously go and speak with Paul. FERPA is educational HIPAA. So if you're not familiar with that, I think everybody knows HIPAA. Most people think they know HIPAA, and they actually probably are slightly off. But HIPAA really has to do with disclosing information to other folks, really that's electronically. But FERPA is disclosing information to people who aren't directly involved with the class. So for example, we can have students come in, maybe they're 18, 19, 20 years old, they want to take class with us, and their mommy calls up and says, hey, I want to know how Bobby's doing in class. We cannot give that to them. That is against the law. We can share it with the student. If the student wants them to know, then they can share it with their mommy. And similarly, sometimes departments will pay for students to go to class, and without a proper approval from the student or permission from the student, we don't release that information to that agency. Personal electronic devices. This is kind of a goofy statement here for an online course, but obviously you have to have your personal electronic devices. This really more pertains to when we do lab or hands-on days or when we're in the clinical setting. And there are some additional documents that are the student manual and the internship manual that address these a little bit more. But remember, you cannot be having your electronic devices out and using them during internship when you're talking about being in a patient's presence. Now, will we be using them occasionally in the classroom on lab days? Yes, because there are some very good resources we can get downloaded in this day and age of smartphones and iPads and iPods and whatnot. So we can get some good resources, and we'll probably be using them, but we're not going to be like a high school study hall where everybody's on their phone doing something all the time. All right, what else we got here? A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory, is why I kind of skipped through. I'll bring this one up here. Standards question?
Oh, I was just going to let the folks at Iowa Central know that we will have their syllabus posted on that course page as well, because there's, I think, it's in a little different format, but same information.
Cool. So standards for written work. I'm really not going to have much written work for you guys to do because you have plenty of studying to do. I'm not sure that in a course like an AEMT course, as quickly as it moves, that there's a lot of time for things like term papers. So people can wipe their brows a little bit. However, sometimes I will give extra credit opportunities that may include doing a short little paper. And there's something in here called the APA format. That APA format, if you search that in Google, you'll come up with all kinds of great resources. But it gives you just some real basic guidelines on how to structure a paper. So it's things like don't type your paper in size 45 font, red wingding font. It says here's what's acceptable for professional writing. It tells you that your margins should be such. You should have 12 size font. And a nice easy either New Times Roman or Arial. Those are the sorts of things that we do for professional writing. I do expect people to pay attention to spelling. Spelling is crucial in medical reporting, and you can change a letter and completely change what you're talking about. So it's important that we do proofreading, but we're not going to, like I said, not going to do a lot of writing, but if you do, make sure you have somebody take a look at it. Talks about attendance requirements. You have to attend 4 out of the 5 practical days. The last practical day is really actually 2 for 1. It's a practical session and a practical exam. So we'll probably spend most of the morning practicing and then the afternoon doing the practical exam. So if you miss beyond 1 day, your grade will suffer by a little bit. Missing 1 to 4 hours beyond your 8 hours you're allowed, we're going to drop your grade by 100 points. And missing more than 4 to 8 hours will result in your grade dropping by 200 points. And if you miss more than 8 hours beyond what you normally can, you will fail the course. So, all right, let's see. Everybody's an EMT, right? Everybody's got to have an EMT license, either Iowa EMT or EMT Basic. It depends on if you've transitioned or not, as well as your healthcare provider CPR card. So that's the syllabus. That will be up there all the time. Attendance here, we can put attendance in. The only time we're going to record attendance is when we have skills days, because we can look up and see how often you're logged in and how long you stay on, so we don't have to take attendance otherwise. Some scope of practice and state charts here. It's just kind of some fun stuff or some good reference material. And then a free anatomy and physiology course. Cherry stumbled across this last time. There's a lot of anatomy and physiology in this course. So it's going to be important that you have good resources, and this is actually a pretty good little website you can go to and get a lot of great information from it. So anyway, as we skip ahead here, here's week 1, which is marked with the dates, of course. This first item here is your assignments for the week. So it tells you start poking around in here, see what's going on, read the following. See, so for this week, 1919, that's what, 38 pages plus 4 more, which isn't really terrible, but there's a lot of specifics that you need to pick up on this week. So it's not terribly overwhelming, but important. If you didn't read the chapter, go back and read the chapter, and then watch the lectures. Post your introduction in the week 1 discussion, and we'll go back to that here in a second, and reply to at least one person in their discussion post. And then there will be a quiz that will come up a little bit later for you guys to take. Back up here, week 1 introductions. Here's the board, and so you can read what I wrote here. It's kind of a novel. But if you want to add yours, then you just hit here, add a new discussion topic, click on it, and then the subject will be, put your name in. So, and then the message would be whatever it is that you want to write about yourself. Post to forum, boom, there it is. It usually will hold it in limbo for about 30 minutes. So if you type something in there and then you stop a moment after you hit send and think about it and you want to change it, usually you can go back in and change it. So leave that. And then right now I have the week 1 PowerPoints up here. These just plain PowerPoints are just, there's no recording with them. The lecture ones will be up there very soon. So we'll get the lectures, the recorded lectures up there. It's not critical that you have them right off the bat because you need to get your nose in the book before you get your nose into the, or your ears into the lecture. So those will be popping up there very soon as well. And like I said, a quiz will also pop up in the week folder here. So when next week comes around, this one that says not available will have all this information listed in it. And this one will, for the most part, stay all completely available to you there. So let's see. And then there's a way to get to your, Cherry, I'm trying to remember. Maybe I need to get out of here and go back to mine. But there's a way you can get to your messages.
I think if you go to my home, the messages are there.
Yep, right there, messaging. So you can get to, oh, no, that's different. That's what we'll use for chat. Sorry. I think maybe I'm not seeing it just simply for the fact that I don't have any messages currently. I think it's usually over here.
You know what? I think maybe you are still in student mode, and since it's not a real student, they may not be there.
That could be. All right. So, yep. Now you guys can see this is all the other stuff I have in store for you. Once those weeks come around. So, go back to student. So you can, I think, set some different reminders in there, and it'll pop up on your calendar here that, hey, you got something coming up. Sometimes I'll put things in there with a deadline, and if that's the case, it'll come over here in your upcoming events as well. Latest news, you might be able to get messages in there, if I remember right. And then participants, let's see who we got here. Well, we just got staff in here, so once I'm done yakking at you, then Cherry will get you enrolled in the class, and you'll be able to access the class. So, all right. And I think that about covers up everything that I wanted to touch on. So I'm going to get rid of this.
There will, Brian, be tutorials I'll post up there tonight or tomorrow that actually will show you how to work through that ROC LMS, so that if you don't know how to access your gradebook, there will be a tutorial in there to help you explain that and find that. So, and we'll leave that up all the time.
All right, that's my song and dance. So questions? Anybody want to go screaming from the building yet?
We have Mike tied in the chair. He can't leave.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So, well, I apologize if this has been a little shortly attended. I think we had some confusion. Originally, the orientation was going to be the 19th, and then it got switched to the 18th, but evidently not everyone got the message. So, but I think Cherry is going to work with those guys that aren't there right now and get you guys, get them up to snuff. And then, of course, Fort Dodge will work on theirs as well. So you guys have my information, and you can certainly get you want me to put it back up there in case anybody needs to write anything down?
I think we have it, Brian.
Okay. So that's all I have. Unless there's any questions, I'll turn you over to Cherry and she'll get you guys logged in and into the state system and so on and so forth.
Okay. I think we're good. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
No problem.
Right.
Yep. See you later.
All right. Oh, hang tight here. Let me stop recording.